Hey guys, Don here. Welcome to Podiatry Practice Mastery. Hey, before I start out here today, if you like this podcast, if you could just go to iTunes or wherever you're listening to it and put a review, that would help. We have quite a few people listening, and I appreciate your time, and I'm hoping I'm giving you something of value. Okay. Today I want to talk about something called a sales prevention department. I originally heard about this idea by Dan Kennedy, and I like it. He was kind of doing a rant on how sometimes, we're preventing business from our offices, and I want to give you an exact example of this. So the other day, this isn't from my office. This was a local place. I needed some new scrubs. So in our office, we used to wear shirt and tie, but now during and after the pandemic, we've been needing. We went to scrubs. So my scrubs are getting a little bit old. I wanted to go buy some new ones. So there's this local scrub place by my house, and I went there and I was looking at some scrubs, and then I realized, I said, well, do you hem the scrubs, because I'm short and all my scrubs always need to be hemmed up? And they said no. And she said, and there's another place in town called Trippies. They said you might want to go there, because there, if you buy the scrubs, they will hem them for you. And I was thinking, this is a prime example of a sales prevention department. The actual salesperson was telling me to go somewhere else to buy scrubs so I could get them hemmed. Maybe a better option would have been if she said, we have this agreement with this tailor, they'll do them for $10 a pair or something like that. Having an agreement with them would make it a lot easier, and it would give them business and they could get a discount. So I'm going to go through a couple of things, kind of rants in my practice that have been frustrating me, that are kind of sales prevention techniques. So the first thing is when the staff, when they're answering the phone, and they may recommend patients to go somewhere else, right? So for example, if they can't get them in, and they say, hey, you might be easier to call another practice to get in sooner. That really should never be the case, because we should always be able to get the patients in somehow, even double booking them. For example, if there's a fracture or if there's a ingrown toenail. I overheard one time they said to go to the urgent care. Now this is horrible, when they're sending the patients that wanted to come in for foot pain to urgent care, because they really don't do much, and they send them to us afterwards. But just something you have to be attentive and listen to the phone calls, listen to the conversations. My office is right by when they're answering the phone, so a lot of times I can go in there and interject and help remind them of things. So that's one. So don't let your staff send people to the urgent care if they can't get in with you. A couple of other things that are sales prevention, I think, is not being stocked properly. You have to have a good process for stocking things in your office. I'll give you an example. I do many night splints. Basically, every patient that has equinus and Achilles tendonitis and plantar fasciitis, they're all getting a night splint, foam roller, and morning stretch routine. And so we have to have foam rollers in stock, and we have to have night splints in stock. So if we don't, we can't give them to them. We can't dispense them. You could certainly do it, at the follow-up visit in 2 to 3 weeks, but it's nice if they can have them there, because insurance usually covers them, barring any, DME deductible, things like that. But that's something that frustrates me when they say, we ran out of night splints. Well, we should never run out of anything. There should always be a sufficient supply in being ordered, having some type of a system. Let's say when you get down to 5, then you would order another 5 or 10, depending on how many you do. And I can sometimes be to blame for that. So for example, I change my protocols, and all of a sudden I'm doing tons of night splints because I'm doing them bilateral, for example, for many patients that have bilateral equinus. Another thing, for example, I have this little process that I use for nail fungus. Patients come in, do the nail sample. I see them back in about 3 weeks, and then they're going to get the Lamisil. Most of my patients do Lamisil. I don't have the best confidence in the lunula or the topicals. They're going to get Lamisil. They're going to get biotin with some of these other vitamin stuff in there, zinc and things. 2 bottles of that. They're going to get the UV light, and they're going to get the shoe spray stuff. And then one thing that's helped me is I have kind of a process of how they do it. So they're going to take the Lamisil and the biotin once a day. They're going to do the shoe spray once a week, and they're going to do the UV light once a month. And I find by actually detailing when they're doing things and how they're going to do it, it makes it a lot easier for me to have this plan versus helping them, letting them decide when they're going to do it. So setting out the actual plan for them makes it a lot easier, and they're a lot more likely to do the whole process. Now, when I talk about these things, if you look at my treatment sheets, once again, if you don't have my treatment sheets, you can go to patientpresentations.com, and you'll see my presentations, and on there's a little dot box that says treatment sheet. You can look at mine. You can certainly make them your own if you want. And if it helps you. But on there, I don't specifically say what UV light or what shoe spray I'm doing because they tend to change depending on the vendors. So many times I'm talking generics. I'm also not talking name brands because sometimes the patients want to try to go and buy things on their own. So I always say, we have it here for the lowest price that we could find, lower than Amazon, or at the same price of Amazon. So because some patients have that objection. They're like, oh, can I just get it cheaper elsewhere? And we're like, no, it's just the same price, because they don't have that specific product. So UV lights are another example that I do quite a bit of, and I have this whole package. So the same thing with when they come in, they're getting the foam roller and the night splint, so they get that. And I teach them with the foam roller, or my whole morning routine is, I say, before you get up, you do a morning stretch, then you put on your UFOs, then you foam roll for 5 minutes. And I usually say it's better to do it on a slippery surface, like a wood floor, because it's easier to move your butt back and forth when you're doing it. And then I have them go throughout their day. At the end of the day, I have them foam roll again for 5 minutes. This is for the calf. And then they put on the night splint for 3 hours. So it's all kind of written down for them. And it helps increase compliance for the whole program versus you can pick the time when you want to do things. Doesn't really work. Doing it that way. Another thing that kind of a sales prevention tool in our office is when there's no follow-up time. For example, many times we don't make our schedule out a year out. We make it maybe 3 months or 6 months. In these patients, I might put them in for an orthotic 1-year follow-up, or an AFO 1-year follow-up, or a diabetic foot exam if they only need just a yearly diabetic foot exam for a year. And it's not in the chart that they can schedule that. The schedule's not built out. And we're not good about calling them up. Now, we have a pretty good system, the tickler system, where it kind of calls patients or sends the messages. But still, that's a way to prevent. It's better to have your schedule built out. But I know it's hard to change schedules. But schedule is something real important. And then finally, my last sales prevention department is when we sell something and they don't get charged. Now, this is bigger than you think. Or bigger than I thought. And I just assume everything that I have them leave with that they're getting charged for. And I frequently find that, and if if they don't get it when they leave, the staff just aren't too motivated to call them, and the billing person's not going to remember and things like that. So for certain things, I just tend to check. For example, if they're going to get Shockwave, I'll just verify. Did they get charged $200 or $250? Did they do one-sided or bilateral? If it's bilateral, did they get charged for the ultrasound that they got that day? Did they get charged for the items that they're purchasing? These things like that, you just have to check. And so the way I do it is when I look at the chart, I can pull up the billing tab to see what they were charged. And a lot of times I'll do that, and I'll just tell the staff, hey, you forgot that. I try to be pretty explicit in in my billing tab. So in my EMR, I can put something in the billing tab just to remind the staff. We used to use a super bill years ago. We don't use a super bill anymore. We have just our EMR, and we write notes in there, what we want done. But sometimes it's on the internet, right? So it takes a minute or so to upload and if they walk out too fast, they're not going to know. So sometimes I will tell the staff to kind of walk them out and let them know what they're going to be getting, because this can cost us a lot if we're doing all these procedures and they're getting charged. For example, I've had a patient, he was getting bilateral EPAT for many sessions, and he was only charged for one-sided. It's hard to go back later and charge them again. So a lot of times what I find works best is actually packaging them. So this took me a while to figure out how to do this, but I find it increases compliance. So for Shockwave, I'll have them just pay for all three They'll schedule all 3 or 6, however I'm doing. And then if they pay for all 3 up front, I give them 10% off. So that's the benefit to scheduling versus doing them one at a time. They get that discount. So that's like $75 if it's 750. So they get $75. I know I'm losing a little bit, but I think I'm doing a lot more shockwave because a lot of people would maybe stop after the first or second. And then also throw in there, if a lot of times I'll do this bigger package with other things. So they're going to get, for example, they're going to get ultrasound that day, they're going to get shockwave, and then they're going to get the orthotics. They can still get 10% off of all that stuff. I don't mind giving them 10% all day if they're going to buy it all at once, because they're dropping a lot of money, and I just think it's the fair thing to do, and in the end, it'll all work out. But so those are some tips for the sales prevent. And then you only have to prevent an error once because they get that big amount versus like each time they come in having to that be charged. Okay, so those are some of the ideas about how to not have a sales prevention department. I'd love to know kind of what your struggles are. Send me an email that kind of gives me fodder for these podcasts. Don at podiatrypracticemastery.com. Also, please consider joining the Practice Mastery Academy. It's super cheap. At the time of this recording, it's $97 a month, which really, if you went through one piece of content per month, you're certainly going to make 10 times or more your money back. I also have a group coaching thing I call the $1 Million Club. It's a WhatsApp group, and it's really fun. It's a group. I kind of limit it to 10 people per group, and we just kind of go through, post our numbers for the day, what we're producing, how things are going in practice, what we're struggling with, and we help each other out. So it's an asynchronous group, which I like. So you can do it on your own, on your phone. So it's really easy to do. Doctors are liking it. So encourage you to do that. If you're interested, reach out to me. Go to podiatrypracticemastery.com. Hope you're liking this, and like this episode, please, and put a review if you could. Thanks.